Hey, how's it going? I am Sean, and I am with Two of Hearts Tarot. That's the name of my business that me and my wife run. Um, right now, I'm in Lockport, Illinois. Rock Soul Love. It's the shop I read out of, and I'm going through the cards, and I wanted to talk about this card right here, the Lovers. Um, when the lovers come up, uh, obviously love, compassion, empathy, union, even forgiveness, all those things are there, you know. Um, but I feel that the deeper meaning is really just getting out of your own way, is what this card is all about for me. Uh, the angel that we have is the angel Raphael. Magical traditions, Raphael is associated with the East. He is the angel of healing. Okay, sometimes he has the caduceus, that healing staff, which is also the double helix. Okay, associated with the Kundalini. It's the staff of Hermes. Okay, we don't see that present here, but we sometimes find that within magical tradition. Um, and then we have the man and the woman. Okay, behind the man we have we have the 12 flames. Any rhythms of 12. This has to do with the 12 signs of the zodiac, and it is the tree of life. Okay, and then behind the woman we have the tree of knowledge. Behind her is 4 apples. Okay, we could associate this with the physical, the mental, emotional, spiritual bodies, all those things we talked about with the emperor. And some tarot, there's 5 apples that have to do with the 5 physical senses. All right. And then behind the woman, we see the snake. This is very much like Adam and Eve, right? Is what comes to mind with this card. And there's some debate about whether that's original sin, which is the standard fundamentalist idea with Eve. But really, Eve chose consciousness, right? She chose to be awake. And in so doing, proved that God was a liar, right? In this other mythology. But the snake is an old symbol, really. It's a symbol of wisdom. And that's what this is. I know in many Christian ideologies, the snake is the devil. Okay. Other mythologies, the snake is Lucifer, which is light. It's a very different thing from the devil. Okay. But the snake represents wisdom. And in some Gnostic traditions, that snake is Sophia. Sophia is Greek for wisdom. Okay. But all the old pagan faiths, it was symbolic with the snake. The snake was symbolic to the old pagan faiths. So even with something like St. Patrick's Day is going to come up here in, I think, less than a month. He chased the snakes out of Ireland. That was an idea that he got rid of paganism. Okay. The snake could also represent the Kundalini. Okay. That energy that's coiled around the base of our spine. And as we become awake, okay, that snake makes its way up through the chakras till we get to that place of illumination, that place of awakeness, right? The background, we have a mountain. This is where it started off with the Fool. This is where the Fool begins his journey, right? And we'll come again into this mountain again later when we get to the Hermit. Okay, so the mountain comes up a few times within tarot. What else could I tell you here? man, here's the real meaning behind this, okay? Man represents consciousness. The woman represents subconsciousness. And the archangel here, Raphael, represents higher consciousness or superconsciousness. But notice that the man is looking to the woman, and the woman is looking towards the angel. What's happening here is consciousness steps back. It gets out of the way. And there's this interaction between subconsciousness and superconsciousness. And then this whole thing unfolds. Okay. Psychology would call this the flow state. So we could say this card is about the flow state. Okay. It's all about getting out of your own way to let something happen. I was having an experience, and I still occasionally have it. This is what I would consider like a really good reading, is when I go into that state, that flow state. So there are times where a client will come in, I'll introduce myself, and I don't know where time goes. I'm just talking. I don't even know where this information is coming from. It's just coming out of me. And then afterwards, the client seems to be really impressed. They say, "Oh my God, that was amazing. How did you know that stuff?" I shake their hand. I say, "Thank you for letting me read your cards." And then when they leave, then I'm like, wow, where did that come from? I was like, I was channeling. But really what this is the flow state, okay? I also had an experience a while back, a few years ago, where I was really challenged. I was getting into a point of frustration with doing readings. I was doing, parties with a lot of younger college girls, and I'll be drinking involved. And I was just starting to get frustrated. Like, I felt like a carnival act. And there were times where I'd have to stop in the reading and just kind of close my eyes and breathe. And sometimes I do that for a good minute, and they probably thought I was channeling my spirit guides or something. But really, I'm thinking to myself, I want to get out of here. I'm not enjoying myself. I don't want to be here. And I really get into a place of frustration. And then what happened for me is I surrendered. I just let go. And that's when I really started going to this flow state. And I was really amazed at some of the information that was coming out of me. These are my better days. I have good days and bad days. So my best readings is when I go into that flow state. And to me, that's what this card is. It's getting out of your own way and going into that flow state. Okay. Athletes will call this being in the zone, right? I have a martial art background. There's, time sparring or doing different things, and you're in the zone. I used to do fishing tournaments, and I had moments where I was just in the zone. I wasn't thinking about the end result. Okay, I was just surrendering to the present moment, and I was going into the state of flow. So yeah, athletes will call this being in the zone, and jazz musicians will call it being in the pocket, right? Where they're doing improv and they're playing music, and they're in it, and this beautiful music's coming out of them, and you hear them say like, "Man, I was in the pocket," right? We could call this channeling. I mean, you're basically channeling. That's what channeling is. It's going into that flow state. Since the mid 90s, science has been kind of interested in this state, psychology, the flow state, and they have an acronym. They say it's STER, STER, okay, and that stands. The S stands for selflessness, because when you're in the state of flow, you lose sense of self. Okay, you're not there. This whole other thing is happening. If anything, you're just the conscious observer sitting back as this thing unfolds. as we have here with the lovers. The man being consciousness is that observer, that conscious observer, stepping back and allowing a state of flow between superconsciousness and subconsciousness. This whole thing unfolds and you lose sense of self. So that's the first S in that acronym STIR, is selflessness. The second, letter T, is timelessness, because you lose sense of time. Okay? We've all had that experience where it's like, man, where did time go? Right? When you're in the flow state, you are in the present moment. When you're in the present moment, this is mindfulness. This is, honestly, this is the awakened state, is to be in the present moment. Okay? You're not worrying about the past, you're not worrying about the future. So there's no anxiety, there's no depression. There's just here and now, the present moment. And you could really get into the present moment. You could dwell into the present moment just by taking note of your physical senses and what is happening to you here and now. So that T is timelessness. You lose complete sense of time when you're in the flow state, when you're channeling. Okay. The E in STIR is effortlessness, because you're not trying. It's flowing out of you. It's effortless. And then the R in STIR is richness, because it's this richness of information, this richness of data that is coming through you. Or if you're an athlete, it's a richness of peak performance, right? When you go into the flow state, okay, you're challenged, but you're not frustrated. Okay, there's this sweet spot between discipline. You have the discipline and know-how to do the thing, and the confidence to do the thing. Okay, in this case, Tiro. But then there's that surrender. You completely surrender. Okay, so that's flow, and we could say that's what this card is about. It's about flow. It's about getting out of your own way. It's about union. Okay, it's about stepping back and just allowing something to happen. There's a few things I notice I do when I get into this state. I try to replicate it. Not always easy. I find a cup of coffee helps. That's what psychology says too. But one thing I'll do is I put my hands on my heart. Okay, I'll put my hands on my heart, and I start to acknowledge my internal self. Okay, everyone talks about ESP, extrasensory perception. I don't like that term because it's not an extra thing. Okay, what it is, it's internal. So for me, I call it ISP, internal sensory perception. Okay, so I'll put my hands on my heart, or just a hand on my heart, and what I'm doing is I'm going beyond the physical. I'm getting into the internal. I'm connecting with my heart. I'm connecting with my spirit. I don't know who originally said it. I remember Wayne Dyer. He was always on PBS, and I'm pretty sure he was quoting someone else, but he would say, we're not human beings who occasionally have this spiritual experience. What we are is spiritual beings having a human experience. So when I put my hand on my heart, I'm connecting to that. I'm connecting to this realization that I am spirit. I'm more than physical. You know, I am a spiritual being. That's it. You know, and you know, not to be too new agey, but hey, considering the channel, I always tell clients that if you're at a crossroad, just do that as a meditation. Put your hands on your heart and just ask your heart. My heart tells me to, and just go with it. You know, the expression is your head has all the questions, your heart has all the answers. So I would do that. I notice I do that when I go into the state of flow, as I put my hand on my heart and I get into the heart, I get into the spirit. Okay. The other thing I do, which is important, is I relax. I allow myself to relax and I breathe. I focus on my breathing. Our breath is a bridge from the external world to the internal world. So I breathe, I connect with spirit, I allow myself to relax. And then I have the willingness to be wrong. I have the willingness to be wrong. I have the willingness to suck at the thing. And I become okay with that. Essentially, I play the fool within the tarot. Okay, we are all on the fool's journey. I have a whole video on this with the fool card. But by allowing myself to look foolish, by allowing myself to be the fool, I begin to silence the inner critic. Okay, and that's really the thing that gets in our way. So when I talk about, getting out of our own way, I'm talking about silencing the inner critic. Okay, and there's various things you could do to silence the inner critic. But number one, just allow yourself to be the fool. Be okay with that. Have the willingness to look foolish, to be wrong, and just be okay. Okay, I always tell myself that it's not about being right or wrong. It's about the process, and the process is this flow state. Okay, when I do all that, when I connect to spirit, when I breathe, when I relax, when I silence the inner critic by playing the role of the fool, okay, on the fool's path, that's when I step outside myself. That's when I become the conscious observer as this other interaction is taking place, and you just go into that flow state and you start channeling. Okay. The other thing I do that helps keep me there is when I'm reading, I'll look down and away. I'll completely turn my body and I'll look away. I won't even look at the client. This helps keeps me in that state, in that flow state. Okay. And then I just don't edit. I don't edit. Okay. Sometimes I might start perceiving information, and if it feels weird, it doesn't make sense, that that inner critic might start surfacing back up, and I have to silence it and allow myself to just go with it and not edit and just speak and flow. Okay. So that's how I do it. I think that's all I have to say. Okay. That's what I could tell you about the symbology of the lovers. It's much more about love and romance. It's about getting out of your way and going into flow. Okay. And that's what I could tell you about the flow state. Thanks for taking the time to watching this video. Much love and respect. Okay. I'm Sean, Jewel Hearts Tarot.